I finally confronted my stepsister who bullied my child, and what happened next left the whole family divided beyond repair. And I'm sitting in my car outside a divorce attorney's office, and I can't stop shaking. 3 months ago I thought I was protecting my family. Now I've destroyed everything I ever loved. Let me start where it all went wrong. My 8-year-old son Marcus has autism. He's brilliant, funny, and sees the world in ways that amaze me every day. But social situations are hard for him. Really hard. He stims by flapping his hands when he's excited, sometimes makes sounds that other kids don't understand, and needs clear routines to feel safe. My wife Sarah and I moved heaven and earth to give him the best possible. We researched schools, found therapies, created a home where he could flourish. For 5 years, we were a team. Then my dad remarried. Jenna became my stepsister when I was 28. She's 2 years younger, works in marketing, and has this way of making everything about her. At family gatherings she'd make little comments about Marcus. Maybe he just needs more discipline. Some kids are just spoiled. Have tried making him act normal. Sarah would squeeze my hand under the table. I'd change the subject, keep the peace. That's what do for family, right? But Jenna escalated. At my dad's birthday party last year, Marcus got overwhelmed by the noise and started flapping his hands. He was trying to self-regulate, doing exactly what his therapist taught him. Jenna rolled her eyes and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "God, can't control kid. This is embarrassing." Marcus heard her. I watched my son's face crumble. He ran to the bathroom and locked himself in. Sarah was furious. "Neat," she whispered as we coaxed Marcus out. "This can't keep happening. I promised I would. But I didn't. See, here's where I became the villain in my own story. I was weak. I told I was keeping the family together, but really, I was taking the easy way out. Confronting Jenna meant confronting my dad, who thought his new wife's daughter could do no wrong. It meant drama, arguments, possibly being off from the only parent I had left. So I stayed quiet, and every time I chose silence I chose Jenna over my son. The breaking point came 3 months ago at my nephew's birthday party. Marcus was playing alone in the corner with his fidget toys, happy and calm. Jenna walked over and snatched them away. "You're too old for baby toys," she said. "Time to grow." Marcus started crying, then melting down completely. The overstimulation without his comfort items sent him into full panic mode. He was screaming rock and unreachable. And Jenna, she stood there filming it on her phone. "This is what happens when spoil kids," she announced to the room. "Look how he acts." That's when something inside me finally snapped. I grabbed her phone and deleted the video. What is wrong with I's a child? Who's a brat? She back. And her raising him to be a freak. The room went silent. Sarah was holding Marcus, tears streaming down her face. My dad looked shocked. Jenna's mom was already making excuses. I should have handled it better. I should have been calm, measured, protective but controlled. Instead I exploded. "Want to know what's wrong with this family?" I screamed. "It's not my autistic son, it's her, a grown woman and 8-year-old because can't stand not being the center of attention for 5 minutes." I kept going. Years of suppressed rage poured out. Made every family gathering for us. Have made my son afraid of himself around his own family. Film him during meltdowns like he's some kind of zoo animal. What kind of person does that? Jenna started crying. I was just trying to help him fit in better, be traumatizing him, by calling him names. By my dad finally spoke. "That's enough. Or out of line." "I'm out of line." I turned on him too. "Stepdaughter has been psychologically abusing grandson for 2 years and I'm out of line. She's family now," he said quietly. "And Marcus needs to learn to cope with different people." That's when Sarah stood, Marcus still clinging to her. "We're leaving," she said. "And we're not coming back until this gets resolved." I should have supported her. Should have taken my wife and son and left immediately. Instead I stayed to. For another hour I screamed at my dad, at Jenna, at anyone who would listen. I said things that can never be taken back. I called my father a coward. I told Jenna she was everything wrong with people today. I accused my stepmother of raising a monster. When I finally got to the car, Sarah wouldn't look at me. 5 years, she said quietly. 5 years I've watched Letter our son while played peacekeeper, and now want to be his protector. I was standing for him. No, we're having a tantrum because finally got called out for being a coward. The ride home was silent. Marcus had cried himself to sleep in his car seat. That night Sarah and I had the worst of our marriage. "Why now?" she kept asking. Why did finally snap now and not when she first called him names? Not when she made him cry at Christmas. Not when she told him he was too loud at Easter. I didn't have an answer. Because the truth was then I'd finally reached my breaking point, not his. I'd protected my own comfort for years while my son suffered. "I'm tired," Sarah said finally. "I'm tired of having a husband who only fights when he's angry, not when his family needs protecting." I fought for him today. Had a public meltdown. Just like Marcus does when he's overwhelmed. Except he's 8 and 33. She was right. In trying to protect my son I'd shown him exactly the kind of man I didn't want him to become. Someone who stays quiet when it matters and explodes when it's too late. The next morning my dad called. "We need to talk." I thought he was going to apologize. Maybe even admit that Jenna had gone too far. Instead he delivered an ultimatum. "Jenna's family now. If can't accept her, then we can't have her around. She's been crying all night because of what's said." "What about Marcus? Has anyone asked how he's doing?" "Marcus will be fine. Kids are resilient." That's when I knew I'd lost him completely. "Dad," she filmed my son having a breakdown and called him a freak. She was trying to show how he acts. Sometimes parents need to see. See what? That he's autistic. We know that. We've known that since he was 2. Maybe if got him better help. I hung. For a week, I thought things might over. People say things they don't mean. We'd find a way forward. Then Sarah's sister called. "Have seen Jenna's Instagram?" she asked. I hadn't. But Sarah had. Jenna had posted about the incident. About how her verbally assaulted her for trying to help his out-of-control child. She'd made herself the victim of a man having a breakdown over his difficult son. She tagged half our mutual friends. People were commenting. Taking sides. Offering support for the trauma she'd endured. Sarah showed me the post, her hands shaking with rage. "She's painting as in Monster and Marcus as some kind of burden," she said. "This is what she does. She hurts people and then makes herself the victim when they react." That's when I realized the scope of what I'd done. I hadn't just confronted her, I'd given her ammunition. My public outburst became evidence of my instability. My defense of my son became proof of his problems. My years of silence made me look like a ticking time who'd finally exploded. Everyone who witnessed that saw exactly what Jenna wanted them to see: a man who couldn't control himself defending a child who couldn't control himself. My dad stopped returning my calls. My stepmother blocked me on social media. Cousins who'd known me my whole started treating me like I was dangerous. And Sarah started looking at me differently too. I can't trust judgment anymore, she said last week. Let him get for years, then made it worse by handling it wrong. What if do that again with something even more important? Now I'm sitting outside this attorney's office, about to lose my wife and possibly my son, because I thought confronting it would make me a hero. Instead, I've learned the hardest lesson of my zine. Sometimes the right thing done wrong becomes the worst thing I've ever done. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and disappointment. Sarah sat across from me, but she might as well have been on another planet. Mr. Thompson, the attorney said, wife is seeking primary custody due to what she's calling poor judgment and inability to protect the child's well-being. Poor judgment. Those words hit like a sledgehammer. 2 months had passed since the birthday party incident. 2 months of watching my crumble in real time. It started with his teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, called me in for a conference. She'd seen Jenna's social media posts. Parents had been talking. Some were asking if Marcus was safe in our home environment. I need to ask directly, she said, her kind eyes full of concern. Is there instability in Marcus's home that we should know about? I tried to explain. My silence. My how protecting him had somehow made him look more vulnerable. She listened, took notes, nodded sympathetically. Then she said the words that destroyed me. I'm required to document this conversation. A paper trail, official concerns about Marcus's home environment. All because I'd finally tried to stand for him. Sarah was waiting in the car after the meeting. They're watching us now, I said. The school CPS potentially. Because of what didn't do, she corrected. For years. She was right, but it didn't make the consequences any less devastating. The social isolation came next. Jenna's Instagram post had gone viral in our local community. Earned 200 likes, 340 comments, shares across Facebook groups for parents in our area. She'd painted me as an unstable father who couldn't handle his special needs child. Who'd, a woman for trying to help. Who'd traumatized an entire family gathering with my rage issues. The comments were brutal. Red flags everywhere. Feel sorry for that poor child. Men like this are dangerous. Hope his wife gets out safely. The kid probably learned violent behavior from dad. My coworkers started treating me differently. Conversations stopped when I walked into rooms. The promotion I'd been expecting got quietly shelved. Marcus's playdate invitations dried. Birthday party invites stopped coming. Other parents would cross the street rather than make small talk at school pickup. But the worst part, Marcus noticed. Daddy, why don't I get invited to parties anymore? He asked one evening, his innocent eyes searching my face for answers I couldn't give. How to explain to an 8-year-old that his father's attempt to protect him had made him a social pariah. Sometimes people don't understand differences, I said weakly. Is it because I'm different? No, buddy. It's because Daddy made some mistakes. He accepted that with the heartbreaking trust that only children have in their parents. But I could see something change in his eyes, a wariness that hadn't been there before. Sarah saw it too. He's afraid, she said that night. Not just of Jenna anymore. He's afraid that loving him makes people angry. She was right. My explosive defense hadn't made Marcus feel protected, it had made him feel dangerous. Like his very existence caused problems for the people he loved. The breaking point came when Marcus started having nightmares. Not about Jenna, about me. Daddy was yelling and everyone was scared. He told Sarah after waking screaming one night. They were scared of Daddy because of me. That's when Sarah made her decision. I'm taking Marcus to stay with my sister for a while, she announced. We'll both need space to think. Can't take my son away from me. Watch me. The house felt like a tomb without them. I tried to be a hero and instead became the monster in my own child's dreams. I spent those empty weeks replaying every moment, looking for the path I should have taken, the conversation I should have had with Jenna years earlier, the boundaries I should have set, the protection I should have provided without the. But it was too late for should-haves. My dad finally called after 3 weeks of silence. I think we need to talk, he said. We met at a diner neither of us had been to before. Neutral territory. He looked older, tired. The family drama was wearing on him too. Jenna feels terrible about what happened, he started. Does she? She never meant to Marcus. She just thought. She thought if he learned to control himself better, he'd have an easier time. He can't just control himself, out of a neurological condition. I know that now. Jenna's been reading about it. She wants to make amends. Too little, too late. But I could see he was trying. What about? I asked. Do you think what she did was okay? He was quiet for a long time. I think I wanted my new family to work so badly that I ignored problems I should have addressed. And I think let anger build for so long that when finally dealt with it, handled it the worst possible way. He wasn't wrong. But Marcus is my grandson, he continued. And I failed him too. We both sat there, two men who'd loved a little boy poorly, realizing we might have lost him entirely. Sarah's filing for divorce, I told him. His face fell. Maybe there's still time to fix this. How? I can't undo the years I stayed silent. I can't undo the scene I caused. I can't undo the fact that my son is having nightmares about me. Can prove learned from it. But proving change takes time and trust and opportunity. Sarah wasn't giving me any of those things anymore. The custody papers were served the next week. Petitioner seeks primary physical custody due to respondents demonstrated poor judgment in protecting the minor child's emotional well-being and maintaining stable family relationships. Legal speak for failed as a father and a husband. My lawyer, a tired-looking woman named Patricia Mills, laid it out clearly. Wife has documented years of failure to address the situation, followed by an explosive public confrontation the family and potentially put son at risk of further social isolation. I was protecting him. We're 5 years too late. And did it in a way that made everything worse. She wasn't trying to be cruel. Just realistic. The fact that son is now having trauma responses and social difficulties that coincide with confrontation doesn't look good. Add in the social media situation, the school's concerns, and wife's documented attempts to get to address this situation earlier. I was going to lose him, not just custody. The relationship itself. Marcus had stopped calling me. When I picked him for my supervised visits, he was polite but distant, like I was a stranger he had to be nice to. The worst moment came during one of those visits. We were at the park and another child approached Marcus to play. Marcus looked at me nervously, then shook his head and moved away from the other kid. He was afraid that playing with others might make me angry again. That his differences might cause another. I'd taught my autistic son to hide himself to protect everyone else. The exact opposite of what I'd meant to do. That night I called Sarah. He's afraid of being himself around me, I said. I know, I destroyed everything I was trying to protect. I know that too. Is there any way back from this? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung. I don't think so, she said finally. Because even now, are making this about guilt instead of his healing. She was right again. Even my remorse was selfish. I love him, I said. I know, but love without wisdom is just another way to cause harm. The divorce proceedings moved forward like a slow-motion car crash. Character witnesses, custody evaluations, mediation sessions where Sarah and I sat on opposite sides of a table like enemies instead of partners. The worst part was the custody evaluator's report. The father's pattern of avoidance followed by explosive confrontation suggests poor emotional regulation and decision-making capabilities. While his intentions appear protective, his demonstrates a concerning lack of judgment regarding the child's best interests. Clinical words for a simple truth: I'd failed my son so completely that the court system didn't trust me to protect him anymore. During our last mediation session, Sarah finally said what we both knew was coming. I want him to have minimal contact until can prove changed. Really changed. Not just sorry but actually different. How long? However long it takes. I signed the papers that gave her primary custody, supervised visits, mandatory therapy. A structure that treated me like an instead of a father. Walking out of that building I realized I'd gotten exactly what I deserved. I'd spent 5 years choosing the easy path, avoiding conflict, protecting my own comfort while my son suffered. Then, when I finally acted, I'd chosen revenge over protection, anger over wisdom, my own feelings over his needs. Now Marcus was safe from Jenna's cruelty, but he'd lost his father in the process. The protection I'd tried to give him had cost him the very thing I was trying to protect: his sense of being unconditionally loved for exactly who he was. It's been 6 months since I've held my son. I'm sitting in a McDonald's parking lot, watching through the window as Marcus plays in the indoor playground during our court-mandated supervised visit. The social worker, Miss Chen, sits nearby making notes on her tablet. Everything I do with my own child gets documented now. The transformation in Marcus breaks my heart every time I see him. He's more withdrawn. Quieter. The spontaneous joy that used to light his face is gone, replaced by a careful watchfulness that no 8-year-old should have to carry. When I arrived today, he hugged me dutifully but kept it brief, like he's learned that showing too much emotion might cause problems for everyone around him. How's school, buddy? I asked as we sat down with our happy meals. Good, he said, not meeting my eyes. I don't cause any trouble anymore. Those words gutted me. My brilliant, beautiful boy had learned to make himself smaller to keep the peace. Just like I had done for years with Jenna. I was raising him to be me. Conflict avoidant, people-pleasing, more concerned with keeping others comfortable than standing for himself. The pattern I'd desperately to break by finally confronting Jenna had already infected him. Miss Chen watched our interaction with professional detachment. I knew she was noting how Marcus seemed nervous around me, how he kept glancing at her for reassurance, how our conversation felt stilted and careful. Can I ask something, Daddy? Marcus said suddenly. Of course. Still angry. The question hit me like a physical. Not angry at Jenna, not angry at the situation, just angry. Like anger was my defining characteristic now. No, buddy, I'm not angry anymore. Okay, good. Mommy says anger makes people do bad things. Another to the chest. Sarah was protecting him from me by teaching him to fear the emotion I'd finally shown when defending him. We played for an hour under Miss Chen's watchful eye. Marcus was polite, even affectionate in small doses, but there was a wall between us that hadn't existed before. A wall I'd built with my own poor choices. When visiting time ended, he hugged me goodbye and said, I love Daddy. But it felt rehearsed, like something he'd been coached to say to make the adults feel better. Driving home to my empty apartment, I replayed the visit looking for signs of the connection we used to have. But all I could see was a little boy who'd learned that loving his father came with risk he wasn't old enough to understand. The irony was suffocating. I'd confronted Jenna to protect Marcus from feeling like he had to hide who he was. Now he was hiding from me. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Marcus asked if we're going to yell at more people. I told him working on being calmer. Please don't make me a liar. Even my ex-wife was trying to help me maintain some relationship with my son. The grace she was showing me while I lost everything was almost harder to bear than her anger would have been. I'd started therapy after the divorce papers were filed. Dr. Martinez was kind but direct. I've described a pattern of avoiding conflict until, she said during our third session, can see how that might feel unpredictable and unsafe to a child. I was protecting him. From everyone, but she was right. Marcus had learned to fear not just external threats, but the possibility that his very existence might trigger and from the person supposed to protect him. He doesn't trust my emotions anymore, I admitted. He thinks I might lose control again. Can't blame him. No, I couldn't. Dr. Martinez helped me understand something devastating. My years of avoidance hadn't just failed to protect Marcus from Jenna's cruelty. They'd taught him that he wasn't worth fighting for until the situation became unbearable for me. When I finally did, it wasn't about his daily pain. It was about my breaking point. He'd learned the difference. The worst part was watching how the family division had affected everyone else. My dad looked 10 years older when I saw him at my court-mandated family therapy session. The happy blended family he'd dreamed of was destroyed and he blamed himself. I just wanted everyone to get along, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Getting along isn't the same as being safe, I replied. Jenna sat across from us, no longer the confident woman who'd bullied my son. She looked hollow, diminished. The social media backlash had eventually turned against her when people realized she'd been targeting an autistic child. Her job and her reputation was in ruins. But I felt no satisfaction in her downfall. Her destruction hadn't undone the damage to Marcus. It had just created more wreckage. I never wanted to him, she said during one session. I thought I was helping. Filmed him having a breakdown and called him names, I said. How did think that was helping? I don't know, she was crying now. I don't know why I did any of it. The family therapist Dr. Kim pushed us both. Jenna actions were harmful regardless of intent. And David, response escalated the situation in ways that ultimately Marcus more can both acknowledge that. We could, but acknowledgement doesn't undo trauma. Marcus still flinched when adults raised their voices. He'd stopped stimming in public completely, afraid it might cause problems. His teachers reported that he was overly compliant, never advocating for himself or his needs. I'd broken the spirit I was trying to protect. The custody evaluation results came back after 3 months of assessment. The language was clinical, but the message was clear. The minor child exhibits signs of anxiety around the father, likely stemming from witnessing volatile behavior and ongoing family conflict. While the father's protective intentions are noted, his approach created additional trauma for the child. I was granted expanded visitation, but still supervised, still treated like a risk to be managed rather than a parent to be trusted. Sarah and I had one final conversation about it. He misses, she said, but he's also afraid of disappointing, afraid that being himself might make angry at other people. I would never be angry at him for being himself. But he's seen what anger looks like now. And he knows it was for him. That's a terrible burden for a child to carry. She was right. In trying to be his hero, I'd made him feel responsible for my actions. He was carrying guilt for my choices, shame for my fear of my emotions. The protection I'd offered had become another form of harm. Last week I got a call from Marcus's new therapist. Sarah had enrolled him in counseling to help process everything that had happened. I wanted to give some insight into how Marcus is processing recent events. Dr. Pedal said, he's exhibiting what we call hypervigilance around emotional expression. He's learned to monitor emotions very carefully and modify his own behavior to prevent what he calls the yelling. He thinks he caused the. Children often blame themselves when conflicts center around them. He's internalized the idea that his differences create problems for the people he loves. This was my worst nightmare realized. My autistic son was learning to mask himself not just to fit in with peers, but to protect the adults in his from their own emotional reactions. The very thing I tried to vent had become his reality because of how I tried to prevent it. What can I do? I asked. Time, consistency and patience. He needs to learn that he's safe to be himself around. That his existence won't trigger explosive reactions. That's gonna take years to rebuild years. If I was lucky. Yesterday during our visit Marcus asked me something that shattered what was left of my heart. Daddy, do I wasn't different? Never, I said immediately. I love exactly who are. But if I wasn't different, wouldn't have had to yell at Aunt Jenna. And Mommy wouldn't have moved away. And wouldn't be sad all the time. There it was. The core belief my actions had taught him that his autism was the problem, not the people who couldn't accept it. I knelt down to his eye level, my hand shaking. Marcus, listen to me very carefully, are perfect exactly as are. The problem was never. The problem was that the adults around didn't know how to handle their own feelings properly. But were protecting me. I was. But I did it wrong. And doing the right thing wrong can people just as much as doing the wrong thing on purpose. He nodded solemnly, processing this with the gravity that only children bring to conversations about failures. Gonna learn how to do it right? I'm trying, buddy. Every day. Okay, I'm learning things too. My new doctor is teaching me that my feelings are okay to have. The fact that my 8-year-old needed professional help to believe his emotions were acceptable was entirely my fault. Now I'm back in this parking lot, watching my son play through a window like he's living in a world I'm not allowed to enter fully. The supervised visits will continue for another 6 months, maybe longer. I'll keep going to therapy, keep learning how to regulate my emotions, keep proving that I'm safe to be around. But some damage can't be undone. Some trust once broken never fully heals. Marcus will always remember that his father's love came with explosions. That being himself caused family conflicts. That the person who was supposed to protect him became someone he needed protection from. I thought confronting it would make me a hero in my son's story. Instead, I became the monster who taught him that even love can be dangerous when it's handled by someone who doesn't know how to control themselves. The protection I failed to give him for years cost me everything when I finally tried to give it the wrong way. And the cruelest part. Marcus is safer now, calmer, more at peace without me in his daily than he ever was when I was trying to shield him from the world. I didn't just fail to protect my son from his. I became the person he needed protection from most.